So as I was mentioning, welcome to the Wisconsin Tableau user group. My name's Patrick McCormick and my co-host is Brandi Beals. We've got an exciting agenda for you today. And here we go. All right, we're gonna kick things off with the audience profile, and our keynote speaker, Bobby Brill, is gonna help narrate the audience profile since a lot of the questions are from him, so he can speak to the audience appropriately. And Brandi's gonna share a quick overview of the Tableau products and what add-ons Tableau offers to give you that smorgasbord options to just purchase the products that you need in your situation. And then our keynote speaker will share Tableau business science and how Salesforce artificial intelligence is enabling that. And Patrick D is going to help us walk through a couple of exam questions for those of you considering taking a Tableau certification exam or want to just brush up on it. And we'll wrap things up with two $50 Tableau swag store gift certificates. And we're going to randomly pick those from the people that ask questions. So ask questions of Bobby. So that's another important note as we go here. This is a Tableau Zoom webinar. So we've got the chat where we can do informal communication with everyone. And then we've got the official Q&A. So please use the official Q&A to pose any questions to the speakers, because you can also upvote questions, and that helps us rank the questions so that we answer the most popular ones. All right, with that, we're going to kick off the Zoom poll. And here we go. All right, can everyone see the poll?
I had to click the poll button in my Zoom in order to see it, but I do see it now.
Okay, wonderful. If everyone would go ahead and click that poll button if you're not seeing the poll. We've got a few questions here. Just kick things off with an icebreaker question. Have you filed your taxes yet? I know I fall in the procrastinator camp and have not done that yet, but thankfully we got a little more wiggle room this year. And next question is, what COVID vaccine have you had? Have you had the Pfizer one, Moderna, J&J, none yet, but planning on it, or no thanks? I'm in the none yet, but Saturday. And then we get into the harder questions now that you're warmed up. Bobby, you want to run through these?
Yeah, absolutely. So just a quick background on myself. I'm 10 years Salesforce. I was using the product 3 years before I even joined the company. So I'm just curious from the users out there, your perspective, have you used Salesforce? Do you consider yourself kind of a novice to expert, kind of this admin persona? Only reason I'm trying to gauge that is based on how I talk through the product and kind of things like that. So just looking for your, just from a 1 to 5, you've never used it to, you consider yourself an expert. So I can kind of gauge that. And then specifically, I'll be talking about a product called Tableau CRM, which is part of Salesforce. It also goes by the name Einstein Analytics. And if you've been around, if you know Salesforce long enough, you may have heard of a product called Wave. It's basically the same product with 3 names. I can't wait to figure out what we call it next. But if you have any experience with it, just let me know, yes or no. I want to see kind of how much detail I need to go into what that does as well. And then we're talking about business science here, and business science is really around understanding data and how data is kind of correlated to certain outcomes. And all of this requires statistics. So I know there's a lot of customers out there using Tableau to analyze data and do some statistical analysis. So I'm just curious on your expertise level around performing statistical analysis, just on any data. I don't care where it is, how you do it, could be Excel. Yes, I still use Excel to do that because sometimes that's the easiest. And then I just want to gauge everyone's kind of where they think they fall on the data science or machine learning spectrum, how much you know, how much you think you know. Just one is, you're brand new, to 5, you think you're an expert on this. Because as we go into the product, I think if we have a lot of, I'm expecting people to kind of be on the newer to data science or kind of in the middle. The product is not for data science experts. You probably are great using Python and all those other open source products out there already. And then Salesforce, we love to sell solutions to business problems. So I'm curious if anyone's already working on any kind of machine learning projects today, and if they're solving business problems. I'd love to hear about what those are. Maybe as we go in, I'll let you throw those in the chat. I'm just curious if you're already solving problems, what are those problems today? Or if you want to use this to solve a problem, what are the things that you're trying to solve? Because usually when we look at the product, I like to form it in a way of this is the actual problem it's solving. It could do a lot of things, but if I don't demo it the right way, a lot of people think, oh, it's not going to solve this thing because you just showed me you're predicting the likelihood of churn. That's not my problem. I want to do the likelihood of a lead converting or an order being shipped late. So I just like to understand those things because I can put the demo in that context. I can reshape what I'm talking about and say how it could be for those specific things. So excellent.
Yeah, it looked like everyone was done voting, so I went ahead and ended the poll and shared the results. Looks like most of you are done with your taxes. Nice job. And Pfizer's leading the pack. And
looks like, as expected, most people are not an expert on Salesforce. Of course, this is a Tableau user group, not a Salesforce user group. So that's as expected, but I know that there's people out there that are experts on both. So that's as expected. Great. Most people have not used Tableau CRM. I will make sure to explain it as I go. So it's good that there's only 5% that have, so I won't be, so sorry to those 5%. I will be catering towards the folks that don't know. Great that you're doing statistical analysis. I think that's you're the perfect persona to use this product because, as and I'll go into what the data looks like and how the tool works, but you'll hopefully be able to understand this a little bit better. And then machine learning, we've got some novices, maybe they've seen it. So 2 is like just, maybe you know a little bit about it. 3, I expected kind of 1, 2, 3, so this is great. Sorry, that 2% out there on expert on machine learning, what you're going to see is you could probably do a lot more in the tools that you're using, and that's fine. Our persona is more for the business, not business user, business scientist who just needs to get something out there quickly. Hopefully you will be able to see the value and how quick we can get these predictive models out there. And then last, we've got most people are not using machine learning to solve business problems today. Hopefully, you have ideas on where you want to use it. Maybe I should have thrown another question, a follow-up in here. I'm hoping that you have some ideas on where you would want to use machine learning in the future, because that's what what we're going to talk about today. So thank you everyone for your poll questions.
do you want them to throw that in the chat, Bobby?
Yeah, if you have any ideas on where you want to use machine learning, throw it in the chat, and I'll use that during my part.
Awesome. And with that, we'll stop the polling. And next up, we'll turn it over to Brandi to tell us a little bit about the Tableau add-ons. So take it away, Brandi.
Thanks, Patrick. And actually, if you could go to the next slide, that'd be great. So my slides are actually going to be pretty boring. I did that purposefully because I feel like if I have too much stuff in my slides, I tend to go on and talk forever, and then you'll never hear about Einstein Discovery. So So I guess I first just wanted to mention that, what I'm going to be talking about for the next few minutes is just like my own personal perspective as I've worked with Tableau. So my current role at my company is the manager of a data analytics team. So I am kind of like the Tableau server admin, right? And I manage the relationship with my company and Tableau. So, what I'm going to kind of talk about today is my experience with these products. So just want to be really clear. I'm not like, just because I help to lead the Tableau user group doesn't mean that like, I speak about these products in the same way that like Tableau does. I'm speaking more as like a practitioner and somebody who uses these products. But I guess I kind of just wanted to start off by saying it's helpful when we talk about the add-ons that Tableau provides to kind of talk about them in the context of Tableau's mainstay products, which I've outlined here. So you're probably all familiar with Tableau Desktop, right? It's the tool that you install on your local machine that helps you build Tableau charts and dashboards and all those great, interactivity with your data. A new product that recently came out is Tableau Prep. I don't know exactly when that came out, but within the last few years. And that's also a piece of software that you install on your local machine that helps you to prepare data. If you're familiar with Alteryx, it's similar to Alteryx. So you can connect to different data sources. You can kind of like transform them before that data even gets to Tableau Desktop. Once you create your visualization using this data, you'll most likely want to share it. And there's kind of two main products to do that: Tableau Online and Tableau Server. You usually don't have both in your enterprise. Most businesses, I think, kind of choose one or the other. Tableau Online is hosted by Tableau, so you don't have to, have a separate machine. You don't have to have like IT resources to like manage the back end and all of that fun stuff. Tableau handles that all for you. But both of those products are really good ways to share your creations with like people maybe that don't have Tableau Desktop, but that want to use your dashboards. And then Tableau Mobile. So that's like at least I know it's on iPhones. I don't know whether Android, unfortunately, I'm not in the Android camp when it comes to smartphones. I've got an iPhone, but there's a mobile app that you can have on your iPad or iPhone that actually just points to your Tableau server or Tableau Online instance, and you can serve up your visualizations right on your mobile device. So it's pretty cool. So anyway, these are all of Tableau's kind of mainstay products. Tableau does work with Android mobile. So Tableau Mobile works well on Android. So that's great. Okay, good job, Patrick, Team Android. I think maybe that should be a question in our polling next time. But anyway, so these are kind of Tableau's mainstay products. So now to kind of turn to the next slide, if you will, the Tableau add-ons. So these I think are kind of like lesser known tools and products that Tableau has. And they are add-ons. You actually would pay an additional cost or additional price for these tools. And I think the benefit there is that if you don't need them, you don't have to pay extra for them. But if you do want them, they're just really great ways to kind of take your Tableau deployment to the next level. So there are three main add-ons that I found, at least. So the first one is called data management. So data management is actually comprised of kind of like two products, I feel like. I don't know what the right term is, but I think of them as kind of like two separate products. So there's Tableau Prep Conductor. So let's say you do have Tableau Prep. So everybody who has Tableau Desktop, I believe, has a license for Tableau Prep. Like your license is good for both Tableau Prep and Tableau Desktop. But let's say you create a Tableau Prep workflow to, transform your data, grab it from a few different sources, transform it, whatever transformations you might do to your data, manipulations you might do. That's great, but in an enterprise, like maybe you want to run that workflow every day, you need a tool, in this case, Tableau Prep Conductor, to automate that workflow on a daily basis. Because otherwise it's kind of like something that you have to run manually, locally on your machine. And so Tableau Prep, so the data management add-on comes with Tableau Prep Conductor, which allows your Tableau server environment to automate your Tableau Prep workflows. The other product within the data management add-on is Tableau Catalog, which for anybody in the data governance space who cares about like tracking like lineage of a field, where that field was used, where it was retrieved from, how it might have been transformed, if there's any calculations in your Tableau workbooks, all of those fun metadata questions can be answered using Tableau Catalog. And again, you actually have to buy like the Tableau or the data management add-on in order to get Tableau Catalog, but it's pretty cool. And I think if you make the investment, so like one of the things I'm thinking a lot about lately is like making the investment in like the whole Tableau ecosystem end to end. If you have Tableau Prep and Tableau Desktop and Tableau Catalog, you're able to kind of see this full transformation across the entire Tableau stack, which can sometimes be difficult when you use different tools, right? If you use Alteryx or Data Lake or Microsoft SQL Server database, whatever it is, it can be really hard to like see the full transformation in one place because you are obviously using a lot of different tools. But seeing it all in one place is really awesome. So Tableau Catalog is one of those tools that allows for that. And then the other add-on that I think is lesser known is this one called Tableau Server Management. And we don't actually have this one right now, but it helps especially your Tableau server administrators with like resource management. So tracking like how much CPU has been used and just the different scalability and like managing your different nodes and processes and all sorts of fun things like that. And clearly I don't know too much about this product, but one thing that I do know that also comes with this add-on is the Tableau Content Migration Tool. This actually used to be a product that Interworks had developed that Tableau purchased and then integrated into their obviously product suite. And this allows you to like move workbooks and data sources from one project to another, and then also do like manipulations to that or transformations to that. So for example, some people have like a project on Tableau server that's like for development or testing. But then once they've like thoroughly tested it out, they want to move it to maybe a different project that is your production project. And when you want to make that move, you can use this content migration tool that will move your workbook from one place to the other, but also will change like the connection string. So instead of pointing to like your test database, it'll point to your production database or something like that. And there is a lot more transformations that you can do there, but that tool is pretty cool, especially if as an administrator you do that quite a bit, you're spending a lot of time on it. That Tableau Server Management product might be interesting. But anyway, so that's an additional add-on. And then the third add-on that Tableau provides is this thing called Einstein Discovery. And I'm not going to talk about that too much because we have Bobby here to talk about it. But I think the point I wanted to make by talking about these add-ons is just how you can kind of, again, take your Tableau deployment to the next level by leveraging some of these additional tools. And again, they're available for an additional cost. And so I'll actually drop this link, this pricing link in the chat window in just a second, but it kind of outlines what the cost is to start to incorporate some of these more advanced capabilities into your Tableau deployment. So if you're thinking about taking Tableau to the next level and how you can continue to add value, I mean, the add-ons at least is one place that I'm looking to do that. So let's see, it looks like we have a question. And feel free to ask questions, of course, and I'll try my best to answer based on my working knowledge. But can the calculation lineage info from Tableau? Oh, I don't know whether it could be downloaded. It's a really great question. And I'm happy to provide the links to all of this. I mean, Tableau does a decent job at kind of documenting everything. So I'm happy to share the links. And I can present on it maybe in a little bit more depth once we've actually set it all up,
Maybe Q4.
Right, there you go. Thanks for, boxing me in there, Patrick, but yes. But I do think, so happy to answer any questions that y'all might have, but I do think that these add-ons are just pretty cool. And they're just really powerful if you're looking, like I said, to take your deployment to the next level and thinking about what's next for Tableau.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, Brandi.
Yes.
And now we have our keynote speaker, Bobby Brill. You met him briefly. He's the Director of Product Management at Tableau CRM Salesforce, and I'll turn it over to him.
Awesome. Thanks, Patrick, and thanks, Brandi, for the intro here. Thank you, Brandi, for answering probably the biggest frequently asked question of the product release was, that it's an add-on. So it isn't something that's going to be shipped with everyone's instance of Tableau. However, it is compatible with every instance of Tableau, whether it's desktop, server, or online. But to kind of frame the conversation, we're going to talk about Tableau Business Science. So you may have seen some announcements of this. It's not really anything new other than kind of this new terminology that we're trying to help people understand why this is useful. And I'm a product manager. I'm working currently on our release that comes out in October. So that's kind of front of mind of me. So I might be saying things that are forward looking. So just remember that only making purchases and decisions based on what is generally available today. This is my cover statement in case I do go into roadmap or if there's any questions and I talk about what's coming in the future. So this is here. That means we can, just in case there's questions about the future, I can answer them without worrying. But before I begin, I want to thank everyone. I want to thank, this is my first Tableau user group. Really excited to talk to you today. I've been at Salesforce for almost 10 years, like I said, and I've been using the product for more than that. So I was a customer. In fact, it was a startup company, and we used Salesforce to track our business. We also used Tableau to try to look for trends. I saw in the chat someone was interested in uncovering bottlenecks in certain processes. That was what I was trying to do with Tableau back in 2008, 2009 timeframe, because Salesforce didn't have that capability. There was this really great reports and dashboards feature. So we tried to get data into Salesforce to do reports and dashboards, but we're also very scrappy, and we didn't have too much budget to really buy a lot of things. So it was like a Tableau, like a one license, one desktop license, and we're playing around with that to look for some insights. I wish we had this feature capability back then. That could have really streamlined a lot of processes, but machine learning can really help in that area. But I wanted to thank everyone out there just for being awesome and coming to these events, so I can talk about what I love to do, which is build products. So what is data science today, right? It's because it means a lot of things. And from a business perspective, it's critical in really understanding what is going on and what potentially could be happening in the future. Data scientists out there, there's some people that consider themselves experts. You want to be very precise, and there's certain business problems where it's more important to be precise than other problems. For instance, if you are detecting fraud and you're flagging something for fraud, it's very important that you are as accurate as possible on that. In fact, you'll see fraud as one of the use cases that I put kind of below the business science spectrum. But you've got to be really, really precise. But if you're talking about, let's say, because Salesforce is tracking, customer data and sales and sales processes, if you're looking at an opportunity and you're predicting the likelihood that it's going to win and it doesn't win, well, that's not, we flagged this to win and it didn't. That's not that big of a deal. In fact, you don't need to be as precise on that. It's great if you're doing forecasting to be as precise as possible, but the implications of being as precise are not as important, but being able to empower a manager to understand just at an aggregate, what's the likelihood that certain deals are gonna close. It's more important to get that information out as quick as possible, whether it's even if it's not as super precise as certain data scientists like to do. But today it's really driven by technical experts, which is why 87% of data science projects never actually make it to production. They're bottlenecked by this team of experts that are highly intelligent and able to do all this stuff, but they're bottlenecked. There's not as many of them. So if we can empower more users, so more analysts, more experts on the data, if we can empower them to do kind of machine learning data science, then we can crack some of those bottlenecks and get more kind of data science projects in. So with Tableau Business Science, we really focus on these three pillars. We want to be simple and fast. So what does that mean? It means you don't have as many levers as you typically do in real, data science and real, that was bad. Data science tools like Python, where you can really get down to the nitty-gritty and you have full control of all the features. We want to make it simple, so we've made that layer sort of as automatic as possible. So it's up to you to point us to the data, and then once you do that, we'll build those models for you without any code. So Salesforce is very much clicks, not code. That's ingrained in my head since I started working here 10 years ago. So clicks, not code is really important because that's where we say business users, but realistically, it's really a business scientist, so someone that really understands the data, to get them to this next level. And then it's got to be trusted. You're not a data scientist. How do you know that this model is really good enough to be deployed? So we spend the time to explain the model in the form of your historical data, and I'll show you that in the demo in a little bit. But trust is not just as much as what is this model going to do. You also want to make sure that it's ethical. So if you've been reading up on data science, things like bias and disparate impact are kind of front and center of the things to be concerned about with data science. If we're putting a model out there, how is that going to impact people and decisions? Should you let data science make those decisions? And the answer is, there are some decisions that are great for data science, and there's other decisions that you really need to be cautious about. So anytime you're looking at employees or taking a look at groups of people, and if the outcome is favoring one group over the other, you need to understand those things. So we have the tools in there to help you understand, but most of business type use cases, it's not as it's not a huge concern. Again, if you take the opportunities that are likely to close or the orders that are likely to ship, if you're talking about your own processes, it's great to have these tools. You may not use them in all use cases, but they're there and they're front and center in the product so that you can kind of trust it. So all of that stuff's there, as well as all of the metrics. And again, I'll go through. Our goal is to make everything as transparent as possible with the product. And then the last, and this is the very kind of important piece, and where we're seeing customers today, Einstein Discovery has been around for 3 years. Where we're seeing customers today really see the value is that integrated, how it's integrated. Yes, it's very integrated with Salesforce. Now that Tableau is part of Salesforce, we wanted to make sure that it was as integrated with Tableau as well. And that is deploy, manage without writing any code. If you think of, if anyone's familiar with data science today, if you're using a Python library to build your models, or let's say Data Robot, or there's a lot of tools out there. The hardest part is to then connect your data and your processes into this predictive model and give people predictions where they need it. A lot of times that has to be coded up. You might have to spin up an AWS server to host this model, and then you got to use APIs to go from your tool out there to connect with the model. We've at least tried to take care of that for the tools that are connected to Salesforce, and we also have APIs as well. So with that said, That is the pillars of data science. And I think this is a really good way to kind of articulate what we mean, how we differ business science from data science. So of course, if you're getting directions, a data scientist will tell you the exact location using the coordinates and the geolocation, because that is as precise as possible. But a business scientist, they don't necessarily care where that final piece is. They just want to know how to get there and what direction should they take. It might not be the most efficient path. I know there's tools out there that use data scientists or data science to find the most efficient path, but might not be the most efficient path. But it'll get you to that final location. Yeah. So that's really the difference. When we were coming up with this business science terminology, which we floated a couple of years ago, we said, hey, we should do business science, and we finally got it out the door, which is exciting. We came up with a lot of analogies to compare data science to business science. So this is one, I like this one the best, but there's all kinds of other ones out there. One of them, if anyone remembers back to, hey, I'm a Mac, hey, I'm a PC, that one came to mind. It's like, the Mac is just really simple. It just sort of does everything. You don't have to worry. But then I was a PC user back then, and I love to say that, no, but I know exactly what's going on. I can get down to the argument can be made with a Mac. You can actually go a little bit deeper than a PC, but that was the marketing around it was very much, hey, this is simple. It just works. So that's really what we're doing for business science, but it doesn't necessarily solve all the use cases. So this is where kind of immediacy and context is the most important. Those use cases is where business science can help. And on the bottom, where precision is needed, like I said, fraud detection or health prognosis, we really don't want to use these tools to do anything that's predicting anything that's mission critical, like health or anything like that. In fact, in our terms in the contract, you're not supposed to use Salesforce machine learning to predict those types of use cases. They're really, at the top, you can see these are very much business type problems to solve. Deal time to close, anything that has a time or a process. I love those. I think if I didn't take the role that I have, or take the path that I have, I feel like I would have been in operations, because I love looking at data and process and making things efficient. Very much, I love to do things efficiently. Sometimes I talk too much, so that's sort of not that efficient, but I enjoy it. But this is where things are. You want to get things out there fast, and you can really start to move the needle. So it's not necessarily for all use cases. And I think I also want to talk to this. The use cases that we solve are predicting outcomes. That's at least what we solve today. Clustering is, yes, machine learning can be used for clustering. That's considered a unsupervised learning machine learning technique. We do supervised machine learning, at least for now. So that's what the product's going to solve. So we're not going to solve clustering. In fact, Tableau has some great features today that can cluster data. But look, of course, look for things in the future where we potentially could be doing more unsupervised learning. But the problems that we're solving are supervised learning. We're going to predict a binary outcome. So did something happen, yes or no? And we can also predict a number. So that's how much time is this going to take? So based on history, it took, on average, it took 10 days for a shipment to go from order complete to shipped, and some shipments went faster, some shipments took longer. Based on this order, this looks like it's going to take this much time to ship. So those are things that we can do today, and we could do it with Einstein Discovery in Tableau. So welcome to Einstein Discovery. It is the simple and intuitive no-code machine learning. I'll get into an actual demo so you can see the product, but the goal here is to provide machine learning predictions to your Tableau data. So I'll go into the details on how you do it and where the data lives and all that stuff. But Einstein Discovery was born from an acquisition 4 years ago now from a company called BeyondCore. And Beyond Core, what Salesforce loved about Beyond Core was this automated data discovery feature. So, we were thinking, gone are the days that you actually have to build dashboards. Automated data discovery will just do it for you. It'll find those insights that you're already looking for. And it'll explain exactly what's going on. So everything is very outcome focused. Business users, they care about outcomes, they care about KPIs. So if you start the product from a KPI perspective, we'll give you all the great information about this KPI and everything that you should do. It'll uncover bottlenecks. So that was the technology that was really Salesforce loved, and it was called Wave at the time. I was on the team Wave. Like, hey, this is how we're gonna bring Einstein. Salesforce had this big kick on Einstein. It was a big marketing push for the whole company, and this is how we were going to bring Einstein into analytics, which is how the name Einstein Analytics was born. If you've heard of that. So again, that was 4 years ago, and what we found was the predictive models that were used to explain what was going on. There was some great use for that. What if you could, what if we could just deploy those and operationalize those on your data? So we focused, we took the technology, we loved showing kind of what happened with your data, but we really were interested in, or at least for the masses, was now let's use this model that we could explain what happened in the past. Let's see if we can predict what's going to happen in the future. So that's where the tool went from 4 years ago to where it is today. Is we're a platform to build your custom machine learning models and deploy them anywhere. And of course, transparent, trusted, and integrated where you work. I've already kind of talked about those pillars, but that's Einstein Discovery and Tableau. And it's all built on top of what's now called Tableau CRM. So back when it was called Wave, and it was called Einstein Analytics, now it's Tableau CRM. This sits in Salesforce. This is all built on top of the Salesforce cloud architecture, cloud only, there's no on-premise. And I wanted to share this slide to really explain what is Tableau CRM. It is a data platform. So yes, there's a Salesforce database. That's an operational database built on top of kind of Oracle backend. But Tableau CRM data platform is a flat file system. So they're data sets. So think of it like similar to a data mart. Currently, well, for the most part, data has to be loaded into the Tableau CRM data platform. So it's not like Tableau where you can just do a SQL query to data like on-premise or wherever. Today, it has to be loaded in as data sets. We're working on a framework to be able to just direct query. In fact, Snowflake, we can direct query today, and we're looking to open that up to a lot more. That's future-looking stuff. But we have this data platform, and we have an ETL layer on top of that data platform. That's really important when you're talking about machine learning. If I was to just look at a data set, let's say it's if someone were to run a report on their opportunities that closed last week, there might not be enough information there for me to be a predictive model. But if I could build some more features, maybe I care about the owner of the opportunity. What was his overall win rate in the past? So I want to look at all the deals that person's worked on, or how long has that person been at the company. I want to calculate these fields, and it's going to require other data. I need to join other data sets, aggregate. So our ETL layer lets us do all that stuff. So it's all built into the same platform. This no-code AI layer, this is Einstein Discovery, sits on top of the data that comes out of the data platform. So if you're building your machine learning model, you got to start with the data set, and I'll show you all that with a meme. And then we have there is a dashboarding capability and within Analytics Studio, so you can visualize your data and embed it directly within Salesforce, connect it with your processes, all these things that, yes, Tableau can do as well. So it's just back when Salesforce just had Einstein Analytics, this was the capability that you could build dashboards. Probably the biggest reason why Salesforce bought Tableau is it's way better to build dashboards in Tableau. It's easier. There's much more functionality. the Explorer is great, and just people like you out there who love the product. We want to make sure that we're not competing against you, because we'll lose. So I think that was a primary reason. It was number one analytics tool out there. So it just, Salesforce said, we want that. We think there's some synergy here. And so when the two kind of teams came together, so my team rolls up through Tableau, we did the name change, and we said, we are going to work on coming up with the best one analytics for the future. So the first part of that was bringing the no-code AI layer into Tableau as well. It was really easy. We all had APIs already built out, which was great. Okay, so this is what the stack looks like for Tableau CRM, and Einstein Discovery lives within Tableau CRM. So when I show you the demo, I want this all to kind of be in context. I'm not going to spend too much time on the slide because I think I've said most of this stuff, but the tool is built for rapid iteration, and to be able to quickly kind of put a model out there and then iterate and deploy a new version and just not have to worry about reconnecting your plumbing. So we have live model monitoring. So we'll tell you how this model is being used. If you're hitting if there's any data drift. So if we're making predictions and the data coming in we weren't trained on, we'll tell you about it. So we're trying to put all those pieces in place. We're continuing to innovate on it as well. We have 3 releases. Salesforce has 3 releases per year. Everyone just gets everything. If you're licensed, of course, that's the other piece. Thank you, Brandi, for talking about the add-ons. I won't even get into Salesforce add-ons. It's come a long way since I started. There's lots of add-ons, but it's all about value. And if we can innovate faster if there's a SKU involved in it. That's how Salesforce works. But I'm not a salesperson. I'm a product person. I love to talk about features and functionality and solving problems. So I'm not trying to sell anything. I just want to talk about how it's used. And really just, we're empowering more people. So this is how we're trying to democratize model building, making things guided and automated. So you don't need to be technical on doing this. Be able to get things out there fast to start moving the needle. So you might not have the most accurate model, but if you can start, if there's any lift in your model, and you can start, getting value out of that, why not deploy that fast? And then, of course, it needs to be flexible and it needs to be explainable. Otherwise, you don't necessarily trust deploying that model. And I talked about this. We are built with ethical and transparent AI as front and center. We just came out with this new feature called model cards. So when you build a model, you can now kind of think of it as a nutrition label for the model, so all your users can really understand what's going on. This was we have a trusted AI team within Salesforce. So this was part of their charter. It was all models coming out of Salesforce. We're going to have this. I was happy that my team was the first one to be able to build this out, and it's pretty awesome. And then I do want to, I'm going to share 2 customer stories, and these are using Einstein Discovery just in general to solve their business processes. But I just want to show how customers today are actually consuming these and changing their business today. So first one is Pearson. I've worked pretty closely with them. They're an educational platform, and they're essentially they're looking for what if someone. So it's a lead scoring type model. So their leads are potential students, and they're based on their information and based on historical data that they have, based on students who were interested that then became students. They're using Einstein Discovery to predict that. So because they run their business on student enrollment, that's why a student that's interested, that's why they consider it a lead. So they are basically able to better predict the students that are more likely to accept, and they can kind of change around their business around that data. So they can, because they want to retain those students as well. So not only are they looking at that kind of, are they going to become a student, but while they are a student, they want to make sure that they remain. So retention is very important. So these types of use cases can apply to many different problems, right? So think of, you have something, you want to get their business and then you want to keep their business. So acquisition and retention, I would say, are the biggest use cases of this. Yes, data scientists can solve these problems, but we want data scientists to focus on those other problems that are way more kind of like the fraud type thing, where you need that accuracy. If we get thousands of leads in and we're able to do a model that can predict 20% success, that's already a huge lift. So we don't necessarily need that precision right away. A business scientist can focus on this type of problem. And then the other use case, it's very similar to Robert Half, and these are public-facing customer stories. But Robert Half is able to, they're doing lead scoring, but instead of looking at students, they're looking at placing employees. So this in fact was really exciting to work with them during last year, the pandemic, and they had to change their business based on people were placing employees in different types of work environments that whole thing was changing. So they were able to transition from placing in actual sites to remote sites. So it was really just a great story, and they're again lead scoring, but they're placing people into jobs. So there's sort of this acquisition piece that Pearson was doing. All right, so with that, I'm going to go into a demo. And what you see here is this, I'm in Salesforce. So for those that, hang on, let me get my bookmark bar out of there so you don't start asking questions about my links, which I've had in the past, which is always fun. So I'm inside Salesforce. Salesforce is traditionally a tool to manage your customer relationships, but it does a whole lot more. So I can not only manage my sales, but I can manage my service organization, marketing organization. I loved Salesforce as a customer because I got to manage my field service. I was the guy they'd send out in the field to make our product work. I was also the product manager there. So small startup, so you wear many hats. I love Salesforce because I could track all my data in a place. I had a place that I could save everything. We didn't have an on-premise kind of server architecture. We had 15 people in the office. No one really wanted to manage a SQL server. So we wanted to have all that in the cloud. That was really important to us as a startup. And I realized how easy it was I could just create a custom object and store this information that I need to make my job easier. My boss gave me basically the admin keys, and I learned how easy it was to set all that stuff up. I built a process on orders. Wasn't a standard object in Salesforce at the time, and I built a kind of a custom orders process. But all this data is saved within Salesforce. There's lots of data in here. It's just another kind of data tool, of course, with a interface to be able to access those things. So again, for those that are brand new to Salesforce, it's not just for sales. It's for really running a business. Yes, Salesforce could be your ERP system. There's customers out there, but it's not. There's other tools out there that are very specific to ERP. So Salesforce is the best for CRM. It can do these other things, but if you have like SAP for your ERP system, that's probably your better bet to run that, because it's got all these kind of processes built in. And there's also a whole lot of like automation tools. That's what I loved. I love to automate things. So as we collected data, I was able to alert when a certain customer, basically, I set up a process so that I could know when we needed to go do a customer visit, because we were collecting data, and then I can run a workflow rule to create basically a flag, and then I can report on it. So again, this is Salesforce. Within Salesforce, if you're licensed for it, is this thing called Analytics Studio. So this is Tableau CRM. I can access the Tableau CRM application still in Salesforce, but I'm in the Analytics Studio. So this was that architecture slide I showed. Data We've got the data manager layer. I can go into data manager. I can manage my my ETL jobs. We have two types of ETL tools. One's called the data flow. One's called a recipe. Recipe is very similar to Tableau Prep. In fact, we got the inspiration to build recipes, I believe, from Tableau Prep before Salesforce acquired. So it can do some of the same things, but it's meant for kind of curating that data for consumption within Salesforce. Tableau CRM is the best tool for analytics within Salesforce because it's all part of the same thing. So I can manage my data, and then I can, let me go back here. I can also, so I get these data sets. In fact, let me just quickly show you all the pieces to the puzzle. We've got apps. Salesforce is very app specific. So apps are folders of kind of collected all your things, you go into folders. We've got dashboards. We've got data sets. And data sets, if I start exploring a data set, I can build a lens. Oh, and of course I opened one that was not ready. Okay, so I can open data set as a lens. So we have these lenses, which is just, I've done some exploration. So again, similar to what you're doing in Tableau. Again, these features existed before the acquisition. And then we have this thing called stories. So this is where Einstein Discovery comes into the mix. So Einstein Discovery, we call it a story because again, when we acquired BeyondCore, the automated data discovery was the kind of what we were really excited about, and we could tell a story about your historical data. Yes, this is not the same as stories in Tableau that you might be used to. Perhaps one day we change the name, we'll see. But these stories are really about telling you what happened with your historical data. So when we analyze your data, you pass it historical data. So with that said, I'm going to walk through an example of a user retention type analysis and predictive model. And then I'll show you kind of how that works within Tableau. So I start with, I've loaded data into Tableau CRM. And when I say I've loaded data in here, in this case, I uploaded a CSV. But if you remember back to the, probably don't remember it, but we had a slide on connectors into Tableau CRM data layer. So I can get data in via one of my connectors. There's also an API. So if you have an ETL tool, you can pump data in via that API. Again, this is how it works today. We are actively working on not having to always load data in and being able to analyze data that's not physically living in the analytics studio. And remember, these are flat files, not relational. It's not a relational database. So the data structure doesn't really matter. So if you have a kind of a CSV that has 100 columns, whatever types, numbers, text, dates, and then you want to replace that with a new CSV that doesn't have the same kind of structure, that's fine. You don't have to create that object model first. You just load it in, we get these kind of data sets. Let me take a look at what's in this data. So this is historical data of users and that either became kind of full active users, and then some users actually never came back to the product. So that's the use case we're going to look at here. So if I open this up as a table, I can kind of see some of the columns that are used. So I'm looking at certain customers that look at that are viewing certain things. So in product usage, what are they looking at? So my use case here that I threw together a demo around how kind of customers use Discovery and which ones are likely to be full active users of Discovery, the ones that sort of look at it and then don't come back. So I look at what areas of the product are they looking at. I also because this is Salesforce, I have information on what training they've taken. So I've sort of joined my training data with my usage data to build a single data set that looks at, here's a user, did they complete the intermediate training? Did they get the super badge, or are they like experts on the product? And then I have this converted flag. So this is telling me they true or false, they converted to an active user, or false means they didn't come back. So these are this is the bad case and the true is the good case. So I'm looking, what is driving this active kind of user here? So when we're doing machine learning, you got to tell the model, you got to give the model both cases. You got to say, here's some that are good and here's some that are bad. And then it's going to look and figure out, okay, what are all the correlations here? So again, have this data, and then I can click the lovely Einstein icon. So Salesforce loves characters and loves putting kind of faces on things. We're very much like I don't know, here's my Einstein plushie. I've got a couple other plushies. It's fun. The kids love them. I think it makes it kind of fun, but it's definitely a change from what you might be used to in the Tableau interface. So don't let these things scare you. Just hopefully it'll make things more fun. I don't know. Einstein Discovery is very much focused on outcomes. So I mentioned I had a field where it had the converted outcome. So I'm interested in analyzing this field converted true. So what I see in this list, anything that is binary, so anything that has two values, so not your traditional, true, false, it's anything that has two different values. So true, false will show up. I see kind of yes, no, and then I see these other fields. These are number fields. So what we can do, we can predict a number or we can predict a binary outcome, at least today. There's some more stuff coming in the future. So those are the things we can predict. Notice there's no, I'm not predicting I'm not forecasting anything here. I'm predicting the outcome of a certain record. I'm not predicting, what is my forecasted retention rate for next month. That is a time series type problem that I'm not solving with this tool. I'm only solving if I see a user and I have a profile of that user, I can predict whether or not, or I can predict the likelihood of them converting. So I'm going to start with this. I want to explore this converted true field, and then I can tell the system whether maximize or minimize is, or I think of it from a KPI perspective. So if I've got a conversion rate, obviously maximizing that conversion rate is what I'm looking for. So I would choose maximize. However, let's say this was a churn field or attrition field, and I was looking at attrition true. I don't want to maximize that. I want to minimize that. And based on what you choose here, it's going to show you the context of the insights will be based on that. And then I have a few options. I can do just component driver analysis. So this is specifically just statistical analysis. It goes faster, but there's no predictive model. This is just for that automated data discovery. Or I can also build a predictive model to help explain that I can then deploy out as well. So I would choose the complete analysis. And then I might have a lot of data and I don't really know what to do with that data, what fields I should include or not include. So I would just choose the automated feature to let Einstein make the decision on what fields to include. So let's say I pass in 200, a data set that has 200 columns. Not all those columns are going to have any predictive signal. We'll analyze each of those and we will exclude the ones that have no predictive signal. We'll also exclude the ones that have too much predictive signal because they're likely data leakage. So that's the other piece. So we'll try to take care of that for you, but you can also make decisions directly on the data. You may want to also transform the data slightly more than what's in there. You might want to apply a fuzzy matching algorithm. This is our summer release. We can apply fuzzy matching. So if the data is not quite all match up, you can choose that. Or if you want to detect the sentiment, if it's a long text field and you want to look at the sentiment of that, we can do this as a pilot in our summer release. So I can do that if I want to. So I'm going to not have you sit and wait for all that analysis, although it would only take about 5 minutes to go through. Let's show you what the final or what the story looks like. Again, this is why we call it a story. So we're trying to tell you, how you can maximize this variable converted to that true value. So on the left-hand side, we're going to show you all the variables and their correlation to the outcome. So account team engaged is a field that I have that tells whether or not the account team is engaged for this customer's account. So is this customer working on is this customer coming from an account where the team is actively engaged. What does engage mean? Well, it's going to be different for everyone's business. You've got to actually have this information kind of, you probably have this in the form of many different fields and records, and you have to basically imply some sort of engagement score. This is, most companies have these things done. So this is where kind of the someone who knows the business very well, they would know what data goes into figuring out whether or not the account team is engaged. And you probably have some sort of ETL process that can, crunch some numbers and say, okay, based on XYZ, we're going to give it an engagement score, or we're going to say that they are engaged, yes or no. But what we look at here, this 81.11% and this 25.26%, these are the rate at which we have converted true versus false. So 81% true versus false, and 25% true versus false. So we're seeing more customers get converted to true if the account team is engaged. That's what this is telling you. And then I'm going to show you the tooltips here. So this is where the statistical analysis comes into the mix, where we can show the count of rows total. So all records that had this yes field, we can show you the difference from average. So this average is, if I were to just take that 9,000 whatever rows of data, and I would say true divided by false, I would get 30, or the count of true divided by the count of false, I would see 38.54%. That's my overall kind of conversion rate. But when account team is engaged, it's 42.57% above average. And then I can also see that total is the count of records that hit that true versus false. So that's where the statistics kind of come into the mix. And not only do we look at the kind of each variable, we look at interactions of variables. So I can see when product usage, so when they're looking at the getting started templates, we have these getting started templates to help you with some some CRM use cases. So when you're looking at getting started templates, in fact, if the account team is engaged, for whatever reason, it does worse. Or when the account team is not engaged, they do even worse. So what this is telling me is, for the customers that are looking at these templates, we really need to get the account team engaged so they can understand what's going on here. So this is an insight on my historical data. And it does worse. I might not know why. This might be something I want to kind of figure out. Maybe it's we don't have good enough documentation on the getting started templates, which was accurate, I would say, a couple months ago. We've gone a long way to make it a lot better. But again, this is a fictional use case, of course. But I threw it together based on, I think, some real stuff that happened. And so that's an insight. So it's telling me kind of what happened. This is why we call it a story. I can zoom in, account team, yes. It tells me that overall kind of, above average. And this is where the predictive model actually comes into play. Why does this do better? So now I'm going to use that predictive model to explain how we got from the average of 39-ish% to an average of 81-ish%. We got rid of decimals here to make things easier. That's why I said ish. So we're using the predictive model to say, why is this above average? And these are the factors in the model based on sort of the occurrences of these things that are occurring. We built a model and we see things like, this thing occurs 38% of the time globally, but when we see account team engaged, yes, it actually happens 51.4% of the time. So that's why it's giving me these numbers here. So we're able to explain what's going on. I can also compare two values together, and it'll take me from here's no, here's the average for no, and then here's the average for yes. And again, we try to explain, but not everything is perfectly explained by model. So there is going to be something that is slightly, we're going to have this unexplained here. So this is what I can do in the story. I can also generate a prediction. If I generate a row of data, and I can see what would this look like. So this is now I'm doing kind of a what if scenario. And then what if I could change this value? What if this was actionable? What if taking training was an actionable thing? I can see what that would look like if they change it. So we're seeing false, but what happens if they could say true? This is where you can start doing these what if scenarios. Again, we haven't deployed this, but we have this built in. This is a great tool you can do in Tableau as well, which I'll show you in just a second. And then of course we have the predictive model. So this is trying to explain like what we've done. Should I be deploying this? We give you some key metrics, and each metric is going to have the information about what it's going to do. So you're going to see kind of what is AUC? Why is this the most important? A data scientist would say, yeah, AUC is the one, my primary metric. So are we able to actually predict? So this isn't like a percentage, but this is, how good is this? How good is this model? If it was 0.5, that's like a random chance. Might as well flip a coin. And if it's perfect prediction, that means our model we have data leakage. So we want something around this area, and we explain it here, what's good. But I might want to get some more metrics. So if you want to drill in, you can see the overall kind of confusion matrix. So how well are we predicting true positives versus true negatives? And this is based on max accuracy. But I can also go directly into that threshold evaluation. Maybe predicting true positives is more important than true negatives. I can slide this around. I can see what is that threshold that I should be looking at to make my prediction. So play around with that, and then I can deploy it. So I can click this deploy, and this is where I operationalize my data. And because this model's already been deployed, I can replace it. I can also deploy it as a new model if I want to. You might have multiple models. This gets a little bit confusing. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But once it's deployed, this is where things get fun. You can now consume it. So you can consume it in Salesforce. And now with Tableau 21.1, you can now consume it in Tableau. So I'm going to show you what this looks like in Tableau Online. So I have my customer adoption dashboard. Again, this works in Tableau Online, Tableau Desktop, Tableau Server. So I've got this dashboard here, customer adoption. I'm actually going to remove this because I want to drag and drop. All right, so I can drag and drop this extension onto my dashboard. And I have the new kind of in-app extension. I love this. And I can go in advanced analytics, and there's Einstein Discovery. And I can just add this to the dashboard. So this dashboard extension is sort of like a first-party dashboard extension, if you will. It lives natively within the Tableau code base, so you're not downloading anything. It runs locally as well. All the UI and stuff is built within the Tableau code base. And the first thing that you didn't see here is I actually had to authenticate with Salesforce. So it's using the saved credentials. So I already have saved credentials for my user. It's pointing to that same Salesforce instance that what I was just looking at. So this is where that add-on is required. So you have to have a Salesforce user account with the license to consume Einstein Discovery and Tableau. So there's several different licenses available, but my running user needed to have that in order to access the predictions. So that piece I didn't show you because the saved credential was already there. But I would choose this model. So I have this predicted retention score model, and we can either map to worksheet or parameters. So parameters can actually let me do that what if scenario that we just saw in the discovery UI. I can basically set up those same parameters and say, okay, what if I had this, 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 and this? What is that prediction? Which is kind of cool. Or I can pull data from a table. Einstein Discovery is going to do row level predictions. So you have to make sure you have data at the right grain to that's consistent with the model. So I built my model on kind of each user. So I may have aggregated some of the things that those users were doing, but each row was a user and whether or not they became a full user or not. So in this case, here's some other user statistics, and I'm predicting whether or not these users will be retained or not. So I got to map the fields to my model. So my predictive model looked at these fields. my worksheet table has these fields, so I've mapped them already. It tries to automatically map based on label. And then I can choose how I want to show my prediction. So I'm looking at a likelihood to be retained. So I can, in this case, across multiple rows of data, so I'm going to take the average. Had I been predicting, let's say an amount or a time or something like that, I might want to do some. There are some other use cases where median would be good as well. And then I can choose how I want my chart to show. So I can show my top predictive factors. Yes, I want to keep those in there so users can understand what the prediction is coming from. I'm going to show improvements is a pretty cool thing as well. I'll show you what that is in a second. And then if there's any kind of data warnings, we could show those. This is more for you want to know if that model has any drift. We'll show it there if you want. So I'm going to click done. And what's happening is I've got 9,000 rows of data in this, 7,000 rows of data in this table. And what just happened here is because this is connected to Salesforce via my login, the API grabbed the data from this table, passed it into the predictive engine, scored all those rows of data, and passed it back into this container, where it then took the average prediction, and the average is 44, I guess let's think of it as percent, as my retention score across this many rows of data. So data was passed into Salesforce and then passed back. It was never persisted. The only data that's persisted in Salesforce is the model itself. So how I train the data, I need to bring that into Tableau CRM. But when I'm making predictions, I don't have to do anything other than just consume it. So these are the kind of live records. So I predicted this. I have some information about what's driving this prediction. So account team is not engaged on this many rows of data. This had the biggest negative impact this is the average impact. So we took average here, so it's average impact. Here's the fact that they're viewing in-app help. This is, and that they're the industry high tech. This is a really good positive insights. That's what's driving this score potentially up. And then this is where I showed you that action variable, or I showed you that what if I could change this thing. So this is very specific to everyone's business. You choose the variables that are potentially kind of levers that someone could pull. If I can get 3,458 of these users to take the intermediate training, that's going to drive my overall retention score up by an average of 4.06. So this is where we can now do the predictive engine does this automatically, this what if automatically, to tell you what you could do to improve it. But we don't just stop with this dashboard extension. This was our one of 3 integrations that we did. So we've got the dashboard extension. We recently, or I guess Table Calc was also a capability recently, just turned this on in Tableau Online, which is great. I love the demo in just a simple place, Tableau Online. And so we have this predicted engagement, and I'm going to edit this so you can see what it looks like. We have it's a little bit bigger. Yes, this looks like code. Don't worry, I just copied and pasted this. In fact, let me show you where I copied and pasted that. So you're like, in case you're trying to do this yourself. If I go into my model settings, I just generated it right here. So I copied a clipboard, I pasted into my table calc. I might have to fix some of the labels so they match exactly, but that's it. And then so I have my field. So all I need to do is drag and drop this. We're doing row level prediction. That's why I have this ID field here, because I need to make sure I'm doing a prediction on each individual row of data. So table calc, you need to kind of have that set up. So I drag and drop, and it's doing a real-time prediction on all of the rows. And it goes faster than this normally, but it will complete. And so instead of just getting that average prediction, I can now see each of those points. And why is that important? Because I want to analyze, how are we actually doing? How are these predictions actually distributed? So I might want to do kind of a box plot to understand the distribution a little bit better. And it normally goes fast. There we go. I gotta check on the speed on that. Something's up. So now I've done again real-time predictions. I can see in the commercial area it's very low predictions. There's still some high ones. For enterprise, we're seeing kind of higher, and SMB it's kind of lower prediction. But it's not just, so this is, if I want to do predictions on the fly, I've got table calc, but through Tableau Prep and Tableau CRM Prep, we can actually get the predictions directly into the data source. So I could potentially just burn those directly into the data source. I think I have this, hang on, I think this is the one. Nope. I have a field that I've burned in here. I don't know where it went. I lost it, but you can do that as well. So Tableau Prep, you can run a prediction to get it in there as well. So with all of that, I'm going to pause. I think I've probably eaten into some of my Q&A time. I apologize. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'd love to go into some Q&A. Hopefully that was helpful.
Awesome. No, I think it's I feel like I learned something. I feel like I've seen Einstein or Einstein Discovery like 3 times now, and each time I definitely come away with like additional nuggets, and it feels like it can be used in a lot of tools, right? So you kind of, it looks like you're preparing your model and building your model in Salesforce using Tableau CRM. And then you are incorporating that model into Tableau using Einstein Discovery. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure I'm thinking about it correctly. But we do have lots of great questions. So I'm going to start, I'm going to just throw some out at you. One thing I just wanted to throw out there real quickly to all of our participants today, Bob Norman actually posted 2 different questions out there. They're unrelated to Einstein Analytics, but about like being new to Tableau and like how to get executive leadership on board with Tableau, and like how to make some inroads, with new dashboards and stuff. So I had actually asked our participants to respond to Bob's question in the Q&A panel, but the other questions that do pertain a little bit more to Einstein Discovery, I'll throw out at you, Bobby. So I guess the first question that was voted up the most often, I think it's a great place to start. For somebody who's interested in data science and machine learning, but not quite, doesn't really use tools like Python and R, how much will that limited experience with tools like Python and R influence the use of Einstein? Like is there anything in particular that you think would help users get more out of tools like Einstein and Tableau CRM?
It all depends on the data. And I think that's where people spend the most time in getting the value is actually prepping that data. So you might start with a data set that has, the data set that you're already using to build your dashboard. So you would use Einstein Discovery. Let's pull that in. Let's see, do we have that outcome field already? Great, let's analyze that. And your insights, or the story that we're trying to tell you, might show you that, hey, we're missing some stuff. So one, we might show you that there's not enough correlation to that outcome. The insights might be obvious. We might be looking at, I always use opportunities because that's on Salesforce. That's our key thing. You might look at, what won opportunities. Well, it was when the sales stage was won, we saw the deal was won. So things like that are going to start to kind of come to the top of view, and you're going to say, yeah, I know that. So then you're going to say, oh, I need to remove that field. And then you're going to think, hey, what about tasks? Maybe, the number of tasks that are going in here, maybe there's something there. And then you don't have tasks in the data, or the count of tasks. So now you got to go aggregate that. So getting that data source right to analyze is the most important thing. In fact, I think probably when you're doing Python or R, that's needed as well. So if you're good at kind of curating that data, then I think you're right to use this tool. And we're just gonna surface some things that I think are interesting.
Absolutely. And so, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, just to kind of recap, because you had mentioned you don't need to know how to code. So knowing Python or R or not knowing Python or R won't limit you, right, to using this tool. And
Oh,
I think
absolutely
it
not.
actually works really well for like that business science or that business focused person, because you're being very, thoughtful and critical about like your data. And I think what you're talking about, which is creating what we call features, feature engineering is a huge part of just the data science lifecycle, but you don't need to know how to code in order to, create these new features. You can create them, in a tool like Tableau or Salesforce.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I think, yeah, leveraging that just like business mindset is really critical. So I would say, knowing that data science lifecycle and knowing how to create features, like being really, really critical, I think is probably the biggest bang for your buck right there. And you don't need to know how to code to do that.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. So, for those who are really interested in this product, and needing to like, convince maybe their manager or whatever to invest in this additional tool, do you have any tips for communicating the value of a tool like Einstein Analytics with the CIO or CFO?
Yeah, it's all about, one, you've got to have those use cases in mind. If you don't have the use cases in mind, it's not going to kind of fly to the CIO. You have to be able to tangibly say, this is the area that we're going to work on, and this is what we're going to solve. And the value is the speed. So one, it's like, if we don't do this, we don't have any data science at all. If we don't do this, this is what's going to happen. If we do this, we can do it. This is the lift we can get potentially. If you at least would have some idea on what kind of potential lift you could have. And then of course, when you use the tool, you could actually see that. You would want to say, we can lift this and then, potentially save all kinds of money. If you're competing against a data science team, it's like, okay, that's great. We're not really competing, but you can say the data science team has all these priorities they need to do. This one's at the bottom of their list. We can get this one done if we go to this tool, because now it puts that onto a new team. So we're empowering more people to be able to use this. So it definitely depends on, of course, your company and your use case. But I think the value is the speed, for sure, and being able to let a certain team, or not potentially a different team, own this than traditionally they would have.
No, absolutely. I think having those use cases, to your point, really, really important. Okay, so I'm just actually taking a quick look at the time. We're at 1:26, and I believe this meeting goes till 1:30. So, so I want to make sure that we have time to like wrap things up. But thank you so much, Bobby, for taking the time to present to us today. It's a super cool tool. For those who are interested in learning more, again, check out Tableau's website. A lot of the information is out there. And I'm sure that we'll see more from Salesforce, from Tableau's business science. But thank you again, Bobby, for taking the time to present to us today.
Absolutely. I apologize. I went over my allotment.
I think seeing the demo is always really helpful. So no worries at all. And if you do have a few minutes, and if you wanted to type out and respond to people's questions, that would be fantastic as well. So thank you so much. Over to you, Patrick.
Great. Yeah, that was really fun to see. And unfortunately, we're not going to have time for the exam questions today, but we will shoot out a follow-up email to all of you. And maybe we can include some of those exam questions in there so that you ace the test next time. So before we leave, we are going to give away 2 $50 swag store certificates. And if you all do the drum roll on your desk, Brandi will let us know. Okay, do the drum roll slowly because she's got to do her random selection from all the people that were asking questions, which was wonderful engagement, everyone. Really appreciate all the questions, good stuff, and the upvotes as well.
Absolutely.
And You all good
Sorry.
to go, Brandi?
Yeah, I am. I was trying to I was getting ready, but I am ready to announce the winner. So we have, again, two $50 gift cards that we're giving away. You should receive an email from me within the next few days. It takes a while to order the gift cards and receive them, but then I'll send them out to you via email. So check your email, the one that you registered for the event with. But our winners are Bala Krishna, great questions today, as well as Joe Kuehler. So I'll be emailing both of you with gift cards. So thank you so much for participating. The questions were fantastic. So thank you again.
Congrats, guys. And taking a look forward, again, we are doing monthly events with a combination of teamwork with the Milwaukee Tug, the Madison Tug, and this Wisconsin Tug. And looking forward to our next Wisconsin Tug is July 15th. And I mean, we're keeping the bar pretty high. So we've got a couple of fabulous speakers on July 15th. Garrison Cummings from the Green Bay Packers is going to tell us about the voice of the fan and how they use Tableau to measure that. And we will also be joined by Hall of Fame Zen Master Steve Wexler speaking about inspiring change with data visualization. So super excited about that. Registration's open for that. That will include a link in the follow-up email as well. Brandi, just to put you on the spot, did you have anything to add about your Milwaukee May meeting?
Yeah, actually, so we've kind of touched on machine learning here today. We took a deep dive into Einstein Discovery, which again, fantastic, makes it super easy. The upcoming Milwaukee meeting will actually be, we have a presenter, his name is Dr. Phil Henderson, but we like to call him Dr. Phil, and he is a data scientist who will be speaking about how to incorporate Tableau into your data science practice. So I don't think he'll be talking about Einstein Discovery, but just about how to use, Tableau for what we call exploratory data analysis, incorporating probably some trend lines and forecasts, and just kind of the advanced analytical features that Tableau provides. We'll be covering in our Tableau, our Milwaukee Tableau user group meeting. And I'll actually drop the link in the chat as well for the people who want to join.
Awesome. And here's all the different ways you can stay connected with us. With the Madison Tableau user group, we've got a page out there on tableau.com where you'll find links to this Wisconsin Tug event, as well as a group on LinkedIn and our very own Twitter account. And likewise, Milwaukee has a hub page, is what they're called, on tableau.com with the Milwaukee events, as well as the Wisconsin Tug events. Hopefully we'll get back in person at some point in life. If not, we're doing all right here. And a LinkedIn group and an email address if you want to reach out and have any ideas. I saw one suggestion in the chat about a movie night. That might be kind of fun. We'll have to think about logistically how to make that happen, but all good stuff. Lots of good book mentions out there. And Brandi, you want to give a shout out about your book club?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I randomly started a data book club over the winter when I was missing like the conversation. When we move to these virtual meetings, we don't get the chance to just chit chat too much. And so the book club provides a really great way to do that. So you can go out to my website, brandibeals.com. There's a link at the top for Data Book Club, and you can sign up for, I have like a summer session that I'm planning, and then also we're going to do a fall session, but feel free to go out there and sign up. And if you want to, like, I don't know, get really extreme really fast, in 2 weeks on May 4th, Alberto Cairo, who wrote the book How Charts Lie, will be, I'll be doing a live Q&A with him about his book. So feel free to pick that up, join our meeting, or join that event. You can find it out on LinkedIn, on my LinkedIn page. So I'll share it. I'll share it in all of these places. So hopefully it won't be too hard to find, but feel free to join us there as well.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Bobby, for your time today.
Thank
And
you for
everybody
inviting
who
me.
attending. Yeah.
See you next time.